What's up? Here we are, back in the cellar, finally. It's a far cry from the last video I did in Tampa a month and a half ago, or whatever it was. That was kind of literally the day after we finished harvest and pressing off the last little bit of our Cabernet. And now I'm here hanging out, going through all of the 2019 lots that we have in barrel currently. We have a small section of them right behind me, some of the Riesling and the stainless steel right over there, and actually right behind my head, and those other oak barrels kind of right on the floor on those racks. That's some of our 2019 Pinot. For those of you that are familiar with the Con Valley property where we make our wines, the other bulk of them are actually up in the top cave right now because it's a little warmer and they're still going through malolactic fermentation. So it just keeps that trucking along a little more. So I wanted to do kind of the really post-harvest update and what we're working on and how these wines are evolving just literally 2 months, less than 2 months down the line. Because this is arguably for me one of the most exciting points in the winemaking process because I finally get to go through all these lots. They're in essence finished wines. The fermentations are pretty much done. We actually do have, you can see the bobblers on some of the Riesling, like right there. Those are still fermenting slowly but surely to make sure that that Riesling is bone dry. But most of the reds have finished up and they're going through their secondary fermentation now to soften up and become a little bit more approachable. So what we're going through right now is I get to go through and I get to taste through everything as it's kind of settling down. And the volatile process of fermentation and getting it into barrels is now done. We finally are able to kind of start to see where these wines are gonna end up eventually. And more importantly, as the next couple months go on, if I kind of turn around and hopefully don't make anyone too dizzy, we have these guys, our lovely new oak barrels, plus a few more that are stored down here that are going to come into use in early January. One of the things that we do is we hold off on introducing any of our new oak until that time. That way I can really cherry pick what lots are going to go into which one. It's how we've been doing it since day one, especially since we started the single barrel project with the Merlot. We're going to do a single barrel Pinot this year as well. I think we have one lot, especially down here in this cave, that tastes really awesome. Plus a few other fun things like a little bit of Cabernet Franc. That's something kind of completely new and different for what we've done in the past. So I'm really stoked about that. It's going to be super exciting. So part of today is I go through and I taste through every single barrel. And a couple of kegs that we use for topping wine just to make sure that they're going to be decent enough to utilize. So with that, I take a bunch of notes, like all kinds of chicken scratch and things for like pages, like a few pages. It's not a lot. It's like a couple of lines per wine just to really kind of nail down structural components, how integrated it's tasting, how balanced it is, and kind of what characteristics are most prevalent. As a part of that too, it really allows me to iron out where that wine's gonna end up. Is that Merlot barrel gonna be a candidate for that single barrel? Is the Cabernet gonna be something that we're gonna need to blend with a certain lot of Merlot? Is there a Pinot Noir that's standing out? Is there something that's gonna get to be more of a contributor to our red blend, the first of which we're gonna release this spring? We really start to get to iron out exactly what we're gonna do with these wines. And for that reason, it's super, super exciting. So, you know, even though that they're still going through fermentation behind me a little bit, they were still ironing out some of the malolactic fermentations and making sure that those come to fruition and that they're all softening up the wines and make them as approachable as can be. It's like kid in a candy shop right now. It's super, super exciting because we finally get to see kind of the inkling of where these wines are going to end up in 8 months, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, and really start to iron out exactly what these are going to become, a few years down the line when we finally release them. So it's super, super exciting. I'm super stoked with how the 2019 vintage is shaping up. Pretty intense wines all the way around. It's kind of crazy how much of a punch they have right now. Compared to the last couple vintages, it seems like this really nice, mellow, long growing season has really lent itself to some pretty intense, very complex wines at a very early stage, which is really fun because it's only going to integrate and really come together as time goes on. So I think that's all I have to share for now anyway, but super stoked. As to kind of wrap everything up, I guess, since it is a few days out between Hanukkah, Christmas, Festivus, all the great, December holidays. I hope everyone has an awesome finish to 2019. We officially get back into the roaring 20s in like 2.5 weeks, so that's exciting, which means more, I think, pinstripes and fedoras and like, I can't remember that, I think the flapper dresses, is that the name? I think that's right. So a lot more of that to come in the next like decade or so. And to truthfully, to really kind of wrap up the last little bit of 2019 harvest ops, our 10th year in production, we couldn't ask for much more. So this has been, I can't wait to share more about how these wines are evolving. And of course, some of the new releases that we have coming out next year, like our first Bordeaux blend is coming out in the spring. We've got, of course, another great round of our Cabernet and single barrel that are in the works, plus all the usual suspects, the dry Riesling, the Merlot, and our Pinot that are coming too. So 2020, like, we're kicking off the new decade, like in a big friggin' way. I'm super pumped. So thank you guys so much for checking out, hanging out, checking out the video. We'll be in touch. We'll see you soon. If we don't see you beforehand, Happy New Year. We'll see you in the new year.